All right, welcome to the stream. It's Tuesday night. Food in review. No, not food in review. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. It is Tuesday. I've already said that. And as promised, we did a little bit of reading on a Monday night last night. I'm reading again on Tuesday. That is the only plan. Sticking to it. Sticking to it. We're going to get comfortable. Grab a snack. Your favorite beverage. And allow me to read to you for 2 to 3 hours. Let the annoying sounds of my dulcet voice, the annoying tones. Alright, so if you're keeping pace from yesterday, or keeping pace, if you're keeping track of the story building, not the Higurashi story, but my world build storytelling, what's going on here, over the last 24 hours, did find my trusty water bottle. Or water tumbler that I drink out of usually for the streams. This has been the companion to many of these streams. So that's good. OBS windows, still in flux sizing-wise. I still can't settle on what sizing of OBS windows I actually want to go back to. Even right as that intro is kind of playing, I've been like fucking around. Can't land on anything. It's terrible. I'm terrible. But yeah, let's read. Yesterday, the part we read had, old man guy. I know his name, but I'm not going to try to remember it. Does that make sense? It's like I've read it now a million times and I kind of like can visualize it, but then like he's not as like he hasn't been a character for as long in our readings, so I'm like... But it's the guy who's dating Madoka, who is the sister of Tomoe, who maybe we probably learned in a slightly earlier part, but we definitely solidified, at least yesterday, that this guy worked with the dad who ended up dying, Tomoe's dad, the parents, which kind of makes... I don't want to harp on it too much. And I know the Higurashi, I know the story is pointing it out and saying how weird it is. But I must say, the age difference is not the only thing that makes, in my opinion, the relationship between Madoka and that guy strange. You know? If I was I'm just trying to put myself in that position. If I was an old man coworker and my buddy that I work with, and I know they're his daughters, and then especially, I don't know why, but especially because he passes away, and then I like consider myself it sounded like they consider themselves friendly at least friendly outside of work, but they were coworkers, and then it's like, well, now I'm going to get with your daughter. It's just strange. I don't like it. Let the record show. Something seems off about that to me. Not like it's the most important fact in this whole thing, but I just want the record to show. Alright, so let's read for 2 to 3 hours here, yeah? I don't know how long we can go. Sunday, October 10th, 1982. I'll watch audio as we get in. Oh, Minai-san, thank you for your service. Thank you too. Long time no see, Kaji-kun. Hope you've been well. Of course. All thanks to you. Oh yeah, Manai, Tomoe, ran into, bumped into a guy from her high school And it wasn't initially implied, but then it later on confirmed. I'm pretty sure that, like, oh, they actually, like, dated and then separated at some point. And that kind of aided in the awkwardness between them. So there's that. That was a thing that happened in the last stream. A young, familiar-looking officer standing guard by the entrance answered her in a booming voice as he saluted her. He had just graduated from the police academy last spring and still retained his student-like innocence. Finding that innocence was heartwarming, Tomoe gave him a pat on the shoulder and said, "Do your best," before passing through the automatic door at the entrance. As soon as she stepped inside, the uniquely old-fashioned atmosphere tickled her nose. Hasn't changed a bit. Tasting the familiar air of her old workplace after such a long time brought a smile to her face. Of course, only 3 months had passed since she transferred to the National Police Agency, so it couldn't have changed that much. Whoops, can't do that. Tomoe returned to her senses after getting lost in her nostalgia. She walked over to the information desk and said, "Excuse me," to the female police receptionist. Unfortunately, it was a face she didn't recognize, so Tomoe pulled out her police badge to identify herself. I'm Minai from Kakuichi Station. I have a meeting with the section chief for the 1st Investigation Division, Hanjo-san. Would you mind contacting him? The receptionist escorted her to one of the conference rooms, where she waited for a few minutes. Just as she was about to put a hand on the tea served for her, she heard footsteps beyond the door. Once the door slid open, an old detective emerged. Yeah? You look just as serious as always. You didn't have to call me from the front window. You could have gone straight to the 1st Division office. No, I didn't come here today to discuss official business. I'll pay everyone a visit on another day and give them a proper greeting after things have calmed down. Oh, I did bring you a little something. As she said that, Tomoe sat down in the seat across from the detective with 2 bottles in hand and presented them to Section Chief Honjo. It was first-class sake, purchased in Kakuichi. Whoa, thanks a lot. This stuff is hard to get your hands on, so I'm thrilled to accept it. I recall you mentioning once before that you wanted to drink some, Hanjo-san. I picked up 2 bottles just before I left. Then why don't we get everyone to have a drink together? No, still on duty. Plus, it hasn't been that long since we all celebrated that big farewell party, so I'd be a bit embarrassed to show my face here. Ah, yes, of course. You were crying at our last meeting, weren't you, Tomoe-chan? No, I wasn't. Forget about that. It was such an embarrassing note to leave on. She thought back to the farewell party, shook her red face while waving her hands around. And after seeing that, Hanjo let out an even bigger laugh. Alright, anyway, rumor is you're having a lot of success at your new workplace, eh? I'd expect no less from someone chosen to be part of the elite recommended group. Our time together was short, but I'm proud of you. Stop. Enough of that. I haven't forgotten everything I've learned from you, Hanjo-san. I've been able to apply that knowledge in the field.
謙遜せんでええって。
Don't be so humble.
ともえちゃんほど教え芸のある部がいなかった。
I've never had a subordinate as worth teaching as worth... Nope, that's definitely what it says. I've never had a subordinate as worth teaching as you, Tomoe-chan.
何度失敗しておごられでも、そのたんびに反省して、努力して。
No matter how many times you failed and got upset, you put in the effort to reflect on every single case.
他の若え奴らにも見習わせてわ。
The other youngsters could learn from your example.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
でも、頑張ってこれたのは本庄さんのおかげです。
But it was all thanks to you that I was able to work so hard, Honjo-san.
お世辞じゃなく、本気でそう思っていますから。
That's not just flattery. I seriously mean it. That wasn't humility. After Tomoe was transferred from the youth department to the 1st Investigation Division, Honjo became her boss in her new role as special investigator of unresolved cases. Honjo was a veteran detective on the non-career path who climbed the ranks at the police station all the way from a patrol officer. He had a strong Ibaraki accent thanks to his local heritage. He was intensely emotional, so Tomoe had many conflicts with him during their time together. But even so, after accompanying him during an on-site investigations and hearing pieces of his stories at investigation meetings, she was shocked by the insight and analytical abilities he had gained during his experience. Don't look at the criminal! Look at the crime scene! After saying that, Hojo would grab Tomoe out of the data room of the Special Investigation Office, where she was summarizing the reports and reviewing evidence and investigation materials, and force her to visit the actual crime scenes. Even after the blood and corpses were removed, even after the marks and traces of chalk left by the forensics team had withered and disappeared, even after the traces of the crime had faded, he'd spend hours looking over the crime scene, always telling Tomoe to do the same. Minae-kun.
おめえさん、なんで刑事部で捜査一課に未解決事件を取り扱う部署の特別捜査係が置かれてっかわかっか
You're part of the 1st Division Special Investigation Team handling unresolved cases. You understand what that means, right?
何か有力な証拠が見つかったときにすぐ捜査に入るためですか?
Searching for some kind of decisive evidence to resolve the investigation quickly, right?
ちげそんなことじゃねえ
Wrong. It's not it at all. Hanjo went on to explain. When it comes to crime scenes, traces of the criminal are most visible immediately after the incident, but, on the other hand, investigators often view the scene with a stereotypical prejudice. For example, if a bloody knife is found on the ground, they'll think it was the weapon. The wounds and traces left on the corpse can suggest the cause of death. As a result, a picture of the culprit can be determined from there, and the suspect can be arrested, charged, and prosecuted based on that information. In most cases, conventional investigators are able to capture the culprit that way. But sometimes, that initial assessment is too hasty, and it is impossible to identify the culprit without recognizing the secret or trick behind it. After a certain length of time, those unresolved cases are abandoned by headquarters and handed off to a team of special investigators known as continuation detectives. And the special investigators must perform another examination to determine if anything was missed in the original investigation materials.
だからといっておめえ未解決事件の処理ってのを残務整理がなんかと思ってねえか
That said, you don't think the process of handling unresolved cases is more about settling unfinished business, do ya?
そんなことは
Well, she couldn't deny what he'd said. He'd hit her right where it hurt. An unresolved case is an incident where veteran detectives and forensic investigators desperately scrutinized the case, yet still couldn't identify the culprit. It was completely impossible for a rookie who knew nothing about investigation to reach a breakthrough simply by reviewing the case materials for a while. Deep down, Tomoe thought that, so she believed that investigating unresolved cases was little more than rearranging files.
資料をまとめただけなら捜査一課にはいらねえが
The 1st Investigation Division doesn't need a simple investigation material reorganizer.
特捜係は欧米でいうところのプロファイラー犯罪心理分析官の役どころだべ
Special investigator is what Western criminal psychology analysts refer to as a profiler.
プロファイラーですか?
Profiler, huh?
おめえを現場に連れてきたそういうことじゃ
That's why I bring you to the crime scenes. Hanjo said that you can't feel the atmosphere of the incident without probing the crime scene. There will always be some trace of the culprit left at the crime scene. If the crime is a murder, doubly so. For example, criminals' footprints, even if they don't remain in so simple form. Where did the culprit go before the crime? And how did he get away from the crime? The method, the route. By examining these items one by one, you can identify what psychological state the culprit was in and are naturally able to see what he intended to do.
プロファイリング捜査ってのは日本じゃまだほとんど知られてねえ捜査技術だが、欧米じゃもう実践投入されて成果を上げてる。
Profiling investigation techniques aren't very well known in Japan, but they're already being practiced in the West and getting results.
いずれこの先捜査の主流になってくべ。
I see it becoming a mainstay of investigations in the future.
本庄さん。
Honjo-san.
犯罪はどんどん多様化してその技術も上がってる。
Crimes have gotten more and more diverse and their techniques more sophisticated.
警察も新しい手法を取り入れるのは当然のことだ。
So it's only natural for police to adopt these new methods.
オーラたちの役割は犯罪者をとっ捕まえること。
Our role is to catch the culprit.
そのためには何でも味方にでも武器にでもしろ。
In order to do that, we should use any weapon at our disposal.
経験とか知識とかまして権威にこだわっていては刑事は務まんねえぞ。
Knowledge and experience are what's needed to survive as a detective, not being a stickler for authority.
はい。
Right. Older people tend to be more hard-headed, but Honjo had spent time working on the front lines, so he of all people understood the urgency and impending danger. Tomoe genuinely wanted to learn from his eagerness and flexible insights. Additionally, Honjo taught her to pay careful attention to the people related to the victim after the incident. Has anyone gained some benefit from the victim's death? Is anyone exhibiting suspicious movements after the incident? In general, these behavioral patterns can't be seen immediately after the incident. Those ashamed of their dark secrets are aware that any misbehavior would give the police reason to suspect them. However, once police activity seems to slow down, or when they reach the limit of their patience, that's when these behaviors manifest. And since many of those actions can cast suspicion on them, you can often find clues with little careful attention. Thus, by finding new ideas and clues as time moves on, you can solve incidents that on-site investigators had no choice but to abandon. That was the job of the special investigator.
数年前に教わったことですが、今でも昨日のことのように覚えています。
Even though it's been years since you taught me that, I still remember it like it was yesterday.
あんなことも言ったけんな。
I did say something like that. Tomoe's eyes narrowed as she reminisced about old times. She gazed at Honjo as he tried to hide his embarrassment by gulping down his coffee. Back then, she was a psychology major who had gained insight during her time working in the youth division. No, looking at it in hindsight, her confidence was motivated by her pride. So at first glance, Special Investigation Officer seemed to her like someone who managed materials on unresolved cases, rather than a person actually handling real cases. But once she spent time on the front lines, she recognized it more as being conscious of knowledge and information. Honjo could tell from Tomoe's regular behavior that she was sharp. He spoke to her with a serious expression on his face to cut off any pride from the root.
完全犯罪なんて絶対にありえねえ。
There's no such thing as a perfect crime. Beatrice would like to differ.
関係してきた資料をよく調べれば
Beatrice!
必ず答えは見つかる。
If you carefully examine the clues, you can always find the answer.
だから特別捜査係を務める刑事は不敬分析力と比例視野を持つ優秀な人材でなきゃいけねえんだ。
So, a detective acting as a special investigator needs to be a talented individual with deep analytical skills and a broad perspective.
資料集めの雑用係じゃねえ。
Not some clerk gathering documents. For someone as focused on improvement as Tomoe, harsh reprimand like that was like being splashed with cold water, but at the same time it was a pivotal moment to reflect on her own pride and inability. Without those experiences as a special investigator, she would have become an uninspired detective, unable to challenge methods of investigation. And after that, she memorized and analyzed an unthinkable amount of information related to past cases. As a result, Tomoe was able to achieve exceptional results. If not for that, she would never have been selected for the recommended group, probably would have gone on working at some prefectural police station elsewhere. Or somewhere.
だから、推薦組に選ばれたのは私の能力じゃない。
So, Was it my latent ability that got me chosen for the recommended group?
自分の知らなかった技術や視点を教えてくれた本庄さんの下で働くことができたからなんだ。
It was a perspective and techniques I learned while working under Honjo-san. As she pondered that, Tomoe once again realized how lucky she was. Come to think of it, that was also true of the youth department. Back then, Section Chief Kishimoto had already retired to the countryside, but he taught her how to connect with kids with various problems. He also thought about Tomoe's excessively straight-laced conduct and way of thinking, gave her earnest advice on how to rectify it. In that sense, she was blessed with supportive superiors even as far back as her time with the Ibaraki Prefectural Police Department.
そんなわけですから、これからも初心を忘れず頑張っていくつもりです。
That's all I'll keep on doing my best, without forgetting what brought me here.
どうか今後ともご指導をよろしくお願いします。
Please, accept my thanks for your continued guidance, both now and in the future.
わかったわかった、任せとけ。
I get it. Leave it to me.
今度戻ってきた時はもっとこぎ使ってやっかんな。
Next time you come back, I'll try to be useful. Tomoe's business here should have just been a friendly greeting, but thanks to the incident she found out about yesterday, she had serious business to attend to. That was the reason she requested they talk in the meeting room rather than the open reception area.
で、お電話でお話しした件ですが。
So, about what we discussed on the phone.
ああ、そんだな。
Ah, right.
これがその資料だべ。
Here's the document. As he said that, Honjo spread a document open on the opposite side of the table, the serious expression completely lacking the earlier jovial atmosphere. There was a detailed report from the scene of the incident, and a photo of the scene was clipped to the side.
ひどい状態ですね。
An awful situation.
8階の窓からの転落だったから、顔はぐちゃぐちゃになってて、誰かわかんねえ。
He fell from the window on the 8th floor, so his face was trashed beyond recognition.
親に身元を確認したんは、普段から着てたパジャマと肩口の黒子。
His parent confirmed the identity based on the pajamas he always wore and the mole on his shoulder.
顔でも顔は見せられんかった。
But I couldn't show them the face. Tomoe glanced at the picture, then quickly flipped it over. It was painfully difficult to bear.
確かに、親御さんには見せられないな。
Absolutely. I could never show this to his parents. She shook her head to chase off her harrowing thoughts, took a deep breath to calm herself. She didn't even feel like confirming the mole that Honjo pointed out. Even though she had very little conversation with the victim, Koe Sawamura, she did recognize the face from an old case she worked on with Oishi. And that made the difference between her memories of him in life and in his current state that much more painful.
発見時にはすでに被害者は死亡。
The victim was already dead at the time he was discovered.
おそらくは即死だべな。
Most likely, instant death.
被害者のいた病室には遺書らしきものは見当たらなかったけど。
We haven't found anything resembling a will in the victim's hospital room, but
自殺と事故死、両面で当たってる。
we're investigating the possibilities of both suicide and an accident.
殺人の可能性は？
And what is the possibility of murder?
事件当時、病室は施錠されて密室だった。
It was a closed room! The hospital room was locked at the time of the incident.
看護師数名の証言を聞いても、最後の検温から部屋に出入りした人間の姿はねえ。
Even after listening to the testimony of several nurses, nobody went in and out of the room after the last time they took his temperature.
防犯カメラの記録映像にも不審者の姿はなし。
And the footage recorded by security cameras didn't reveal any suspicious personnel.
で、自分から思い余って落ちたが、外を覗き込もうとかなんとかして足を滑らせたか。
So, either he jumped down of his own volition, or he's trying to peek out the window and lost his footing.
そのどっちかってのが正月の見解だべ。
The official opinion is one or the other.
ですか。
Is that so? Tomoe also thought that reasoning sounded valid. There was no doubt that Koe Sawamura was deeply mentally scarred after the earlier incident. Tomoe could assert that to herself. Therefore, even though there was a possibility the fall was an accident, it was far more likely that his mental instability drove him to jump. Plus, the testimony of the nurses and the fact that the tapes didn't reveal anyone suspicious were immutable evidence. However,
なんか腑に落ちない。
something doesn't add up. In fact, she was starting to feel suspicious because the conditions were a little too consistent. Plus, thinking about it from the victim's point of view, there was clearly a few odd points.
どうした、ともえちゃん。
What is it, Tomoe-chan?
被害者が転落死したこの日って土曜日ですよね。
The day the victim fell was a Saturday, right?
なんでこの日だったんでしょう。
Why that day in particular?
あ？それはどういう意味だ？
What are you getting at?
私が少し前に別件で聞き込みをした時に教えてもらったんですが、
Something I learned while working a different case a little while ago.
毎週土曜日はこの被害者の少年の女友達というより恋人が遠方からお見舞いに訪れる日だったかと思います。
Every Saturday, the victim's female friend, or rather his girlfriend, would travel from a long distance to visit him. Tomoe pulled out her police notebook and flipped through it. Tomoe could still remember the contents since it was so recent, so she was able to find the page easily.
やっぱりそうだ。
Just as I thought.
それに実際、ほら、第一発見者に尾崎渚って女子生徒の名前があります。
Not only that, look here. First person to discover the body was a female student named Nagisa Osaki,
この子が被害者と前の学校で交際していた相手ですよ。
and she was dating the victim at his old school.
それで？
So?
これは私が女性だからなのかもしれませんが、
Maybe I'm only saying this because I'm a woman.
自分の彼女が面会にやってくる日にその子と会わないまま飛び降りて死のうと考えるでしょうか。
But do you think you'd jump to his death without meeting her on the day she always comes to visit?
それが私にはどうしても腑に落ちません。
That doesn't sit right with me. The thoughts that drove a person to suicide and escape from reality are often accompanied by a desire to share those final thoughts and intentions with someone other than yourself. For example, resentment, apology, despair. Thus, the method and location of death can, in many cases, reveal something about the victim's intentions. Among the methods of suicide, psychological studies consider jumping a very egocentric method. First of all, you can't even imagine how much your body will be destroyed by the impact. And there's a strange sense of elation and freedom that comes from showing that death to others. In other words, the emotional motivations include intense despair and twisted exhibitionism.
飛び降り自殺は自分の醜い姿を見せつけることで周囲の同情を買って自己満足を得るか、自分が怨恨を抱く相手に罪悪感を煽らせて復讐する行為だ。
Jumping suicide is an act intended to garner sympathy by showing your ugly form to the people around you, or to force guilt upon the person who has wronged you.
だとしたら自分の恋人が帰った後ならともかく見舞いに来るのを待っている間にそこまでどす黒い感情を持つだろうか。
If so, could he have truly felt such dark feelings while waiting for his girlfriend to come visit him? Tomoe simply couldn't convince herself of that.
おー、ちゃんと実践してんな。
Oh, you've really been practicing properly.
それが行動分析っちゅうもんだ。
Now that's behavioral analysis. Hanjo had a huge grin on his face since he was thinking the same thing. Tomoe couldn't help but respond with a wry smile. In any event, this was her first time seeing the case files, so she came up with that thought immediately. Battle-hardened Hanjo realized that right away.
すると本庄さんもやはりそちらの見解ですか。
So Hanjo-san, does that mean you have the same opinion?
鑑識と所轄署の連中は7-3の割合で自殺と見てるかね。
The forensics and precinct staff see it as a 7 in 10 chance of being suicide.
俺はむしろ7-3で殺人の読みだ。
I, on the other hand, read it as a 7 in 10 chance of murder. Who speaks like that? Wouldn't you just say a 70% chance? And I'm no AP style guidebook or anything, but shouldn't you write out, especially if you're going 7 in 10, shouldn't you write 7 out and 10 out and not 1-0? Whatever. What do I know?
だからいずれ一家に取り上げる予定だったが、ともえちゃんの話を聞いてなお一層確信したな。
I was planning to take it up with the First Division, but now I'm much more interested in hearing your thoughts, Tomoe-chan.
その根拠は何ですか。
And what's the basis for your assessment?
これだ。
this. Hanjo pulled 2 photos out of his breast pocket as he said that, then handed them to Tomoe. The first picture was an enlarged photo of a window frame taken at night. Scratch marks were left on the bottom and right side of the window frame, and the faint light of a luminol reaction could be seen to the right. In the second picture, showed the back of a left hand laying half opened on the asphalt, most likely belonging to the victim. The nail on the index finger was covered in blood and peeling off. Gross.
沢村さんは私の担当でしたので。
That's right. I was in charge of Sawamura-san.
記録はこれになります。
Here is his records. The older nurse named Hiranuma pulled a file out of the bookshelf as she said that, then handed it to Tomoe. She seemed to have a meticulous personality and gave a polite but thorough description.
検温してから火災報知器の誤作動がありましたので、その対処に各部屋を回ってからこの詰め所に。
There was a malfunction in the fire alarm after we measured his temperature, so I had to visit every room to deal with it before returning to the station.
それからだいたい4時頃に彼の友達が面会に来られましたので、私が部屋までお連れしました。
After that, a friend of his came to visit around 4 o'clock, so I escorted her to his room.
聞き込みを行った刑事からの話では、部屋に鍵がかかっていたと。
I heard from the other detectives that his room was locked.
普段は施錠しない患者さんだったので、変だなと思いまして。
Right. I thought it was strange because he normally didn't lock his room. Tomoe quickly skimmed through the file's contents while flipping through the pages. It was almost identical to the report summarized in the investigation materials.
病室を見せてもらえますか？
Can you show me the patient's room?
どうぞ。
Yes, of course.
こちらになります。
Right this way.
ここから落ちたというわけですか。
So, he fell from here?
最初に発見したのはそのお友達でしたが、パニックになって暴れて。
Right. His friend was the first to discover him, but she started to panic.
静止するのも一苦労でした。
I had a hard time restraining her. She was most likely confused and unable to accept this as reality. It was far too burdensome a tale for an early adolescent.
で、発見してすぐに警察に通報。
So, you reported to the police immediately after discovery?
それからセンターの詰め所にいる主治医に連絡。
Then you contacted the doctor in charge at the center station.
その流れで間違いありませんね。
I'm not mistaken about any of that, right?
その通りです。
Yes, that is correct.
なるほど。
I see. Tomoe nodded while scribbling Hiranuma's story into her notebook. Then, she turned her attention toward the window frame in the photo.
この傷は被害者のものですよね。
These scratches were caused by the victim.
どうしてついたのでしょう。
But why are they here?
さあ、私には何とも。
Unfortunately, I have no idea.
ひょっとしたら窓枠を掴んで外を見ていた時にバランスを崩して落下してしまったのかもしれません。
Perhaps he lost his balance while looking outside and tried to grab the window frame.
それにしても、どうしてこの病室には鉄格子がないのですか？
At any rate, why aren't there any bars on the window of this hospital room? Tomoe directly asked about the matter that was bothering her. The victim was being hospitalized on the top floor, so it wouldn't be surprising for this hospital to have them, in consideration for the patient's safety. Not to mention, the patients hospitalized in this particular ward were...
もう一度お尋ねします。
Let me ask another question, then.
このフロアの病室にいる患者も、すべて精神科医の診断で入院している人たちなんですよね。
All the patients hospitalized on this floor have been diagnosed for psychiatric treatment, correct?
はい、そうです。
Yes, that's right.
そのため、ドアも外部から錠がかけられるようになっています。
That's why the doors are designed so they can be locked from the outside.
それなら、窓に転落防止の対策を施さないのはなぜですか？
In which case, why have no measures have been taken to prevent falling out of the windows?
鉄格子だと監禁されたように患者が感じて治療に逆効果を与える場合が多いのです。
Iron bars often cause a patient to feel confined, which has an adverse effect on their treatment.
それにもともと窓には鍵がかかって本当なら簡単には開かない仕組みになっています。
Plus, the windows are equipped with locks, so they can't simply be opened.
それが開いていた。
And yet, this one was open.
どうしてです？
Why is that?
すみません。私どもの見落としです。
I'm sorry. That was an oversight on our part.
換気のために一度鍵を開けたのですが、そのまま忘れてしまって。
I unlocked it once to air the room out, but forgot about it.
弁解の余地もございません。
It's inexcusable. Next, Tomoe examined the calendar on the wall beside the bed. Cutesy, colorful characters were printed on it. Looked like it was designed for girls.
これは被害者が？
Did this belong to the victim?
いえ、それはお友達の尾崎さんが持ってきたものです。
No, his friend Ozaki-san brought that.
なるほど。
I see. She carefully pinched the page to see the next page underneath. It was currently October, so there were 2 more pages. And finally, Tomoe approached the door, pushed the button on the knob, and closed it. It wasn't a normal door where you turn a tab to lock the door. Lock apparently prevented the outer knob from rotating. So, rather than locking before closing, the mechanism required the door to be closed before locking.
そういえば、被害者の発見前に火災報知器が鳴っていたとの話でしたが。
By the way, you mentioned that the fire alarm went off some time before the victim was discovered.
いつくらいの時間だったかわかりますか？
Do you know approximately what time that happened?
確か3時頃だったと思います。
I think it was around 3 o'clock.
鳴ってからしばらく各所を見て回ったので、3分ほど鳴り続いていたかと。
I went and looked around for a while when it went off, so probably continued for about 3 minutes.
わかりました。ありがとうございます。
Understood. Thank you very much. Tomoe gave her a bow, then made her way out of the hospital. The autumn sky was clear and a refreshing breeze blew by.
今日は割と暖かいな。
Rather warm today. Feeling a little sweat on her forehead, Tomoe pulled the handkerchief from her pocket and wiped it away. The cobblestone paved path glittered in the sunlight, scattering grains of light all about.
さすがにセミはもう鳴いてないか。
Seems like cicadas have already stopped crying.
あ、
Oh. The autumn leaves fell down and fluttered right before her eyes. The base of a distant mountain showed the mix of vermilion and yellow hues, and the leaves of the surrounding trees were just as vividly colored. I'm reading weird tonight. How pretty.
こんな場所でなかったら。
Not for the current location. Tomoe let out a sigh, then looked over the surrounding area. She was currently a short distance west of the city center, in a dilapidated cemetery.
あ、
Oh. Using the map given to her by the groundskeeper as a guide, she noticed another person near her destination. Moving closer to get a better look, it was a girl she recognized, Nagisa Ozaki. Before long, Nagisa noticed the approaching footsteps and turned toward Tomoe. Then she lightly bowed her head before turning her gaze back toward the gravestones in front of her.
ご無沙汰してます。
Long time no see.
お参りしてもいいかしら。
Would it be alright for me to pay him a visit? Nagisa gave no answer to that, and simply shuffled her feet, so she wasn't standing directly in front of the gravestone. Tomoe took that as affirmation and said thank you, then sat the chrysanthemums she brought from the local flower shop down next to the grave. Wow, I'm just messing every word up. Jesus. It's one of those nights. There was already a beautifully blooming cosmos flower sitting there, most likely placed there by Nagisa herself. She lit a bundle of incense sticks at the nearby brazier, then set them down in the indentations of the incense burner.
こんな形でもう一度会いに来たくなかったわ。
I didn't want to see him again like this.
おためごかしな言い方に聞こえるかもしれないけど、私は早く元気になって元の通りになってほしかった。
It might be an odd thing for me to say, but I wanted him to get better quickly and go back to the way he was before.
彼にも、それにあなたにも。
Both him and you too. Tomoe could hear a heavy breath, even though her back was turned. Honestly, there were several things she wanted to ask Nagisa about regarding this case. However, Tomoe recognized how much the girl's heart must ache, so she repressed the urge. The person most hurt by this incident was none other than Nagisa. Tomoe wasn't so callous as to force that on her just because of the opportunity.
ごめんね、お邪魔して。
I'm sorry for intruding.
それじゃ、元気でね。
Anyway, take care. After saying only that, Tomoe turned away from Nagisa.
ここに納骨したのついさっきなんです。
He was only just laid to rest here. Huh? That moment. Tomoe looked back as soon as she heard Nagisa muttering. Nagisa clenched her blouse near her chest and furrowed her eyebrows to endure the emotions welling up inside her.
1階に降りた時には白い布をかぶせられてて、病院の人たちに遮られて近づけなくて。
When I got down to the first floor, he was already covered in a white cloth and hospital staff wouldn't let me get close.
その後すぐに警察の人が運び出して、戻ってきた時には骨になった。
The police carried him away immediately after that, and by the time I saw him again, he was already ashes.
結局私、浩平くんの顔最後まで見せてもらえませんでした。
In the end, I never got to see Kohei-kun's face. Tomoe thought that outcome was for the best. Nothing good would come of showing such a drastically warped human form to a child. In fact, Madoka was so scarred by seeing her parents' burned bodies that she was still suffering from it even now.
だからかな。
Maybe that's why
私、まだ信じられないんです。
I still can't believe it.
浩平くん、本当に死んじゃったのかな。
Is Kohei-kun really dead?
本当はみんなが後で私をからかおうと嘘ついてるだけじゃないかな。
It's not just a hoax that everyone will tease me about later?
尾崎さん。
Ozaki-san.
浩平くん、入院してすぐの頃は病室から逃げ出したことがあるんです。
Kohei-kun escaped from his hospital room right after he was admitted there.
入り口のドアに鍵がかかっているから、窓ガラスを割ってパジャマ姿で。
Since the door was locked, he broke the window, still dressed in his pajamas.
怖い夢にうなされたとひどく怯えていました。
He had a terrible dream, so he was so scared. It had probably happened a little while after Tomoe had gone in to question him. At the time, she was heading to the hospital room in the back of the first floor to meet him, but his parents refused to cooperate, so she was about to leave, and that was when she met Nagisa. And when the parents weren't there, she was able to meet him face to face once with Nagisa's consent. Of course, she was only able to make small talk, but his pale, worn-out appearance was plain to see during their short time together.
でも、先々週に病室が1階から8階に移って、すごく喜んでました。
But he was so happy when his hospital room was moved from the first floor to the 8th, the week before last.
ここは景色もいいし、病状が軽くなった人が入るフロアだって、看護師さんから教えてもらったって。
He said the view around there was really nice, and the nurse told him that patients who moved to the floor were, when their condition was improving.
それに、最後に会った日には次の週の診断で退院の日がわかるって言ってたんです。
Plus, last time I saw him, he said he was going to learn the date of his discharge after his diagnosis the following week.
だからあの日、そのことが聞けると思って私、一番綺麗なお花を持って。
So when I heard that, I decided to bring in the most beautiful flowers I could find on that day.
早く退院して一緒の大学に行こうって約束してくれて。
He promised that he'd get out of the hospital soon and we'd go to college together.
浩平くんは頭いいから、私浩平くんの行きたいところに合わせられるように成績上げようと頑張ってたのに。
Kohei-kun was really smart, so I was working really hard to get into the place where he wanted to go.
なのに。
And yet... Nagisa's voice trembled, while huge tears spilled from her eyes. The drops came overflowing down her cheeks, one after another, and no matter how much she wiped them away with the back of her hands, they wouldn't stop.
刑事さん。
Detective? While still sobbing, she looked up and turned toward Tomoe. And then...
これってやっぱり
So that's it after all.
レイナの言ってたお社様のたたりなんですか。
It's the curse of Oshiro-sama that Rina mentioned.
え？
Huh?
だっておかしいじゃないですか。
Because it's so strange, isn't it?
みんなの言う通り、浩平くんは時々変な夢を見てうなされることもありました。
Just like everyone said, Kohei-kun did occasionally have weird dreams and nightmares.
だけど、私との約束を忘れて飛び降りて死にたくなるほど悩んでいたなんて、
But
とても考えられない。
But I can't believe he would ignore his promise to me and want to kill himself. Seeing the desperately sorrowful color of her eyes, painfully squeezed at Tomoe's chest.
レイナに関わったせいでこんなことになって。
This is all because of Reina.
なのにあの子は謝りもせずにいなくなった。
But she just disappeared without apologizing.
みんなあの子が
Oh, because of that girl. That girl!
だけど沢村君は竜宮さんの紹介であなたと交際するようになったのよね。
But Ryugu-san was the reason you were introduced to Sawamura-kun.
それなのにそんな優しい子がどうして彼を傷つけようなんて考えたのかしら。
And yet, how could such a kind-hearted girl have even considered hurting him?
そんなこと知らない。
I don't know.
知るわけない。
How could I?
落ち着いて尾崎さん。
Calm down, Ozaki-san.
浩平君を殺した犯人を捕まえるためには大事なことなの。
If
よ
we're,
く
go-
考えてみて。
if we're going to catch the person who killed Koi-kun, we'll have to think clearly. Tomoe lowered her face to Nagisa's height to look at her in the eyes, gave her a gentle look to calm her down. Looking at that expression, Nagisa relaxed, a little of the anger and frustration welling up inside her. She took a moment to idly think, then muttered quietly.
刑事さんは
Detective?
何？
What is it?
浩平君が殺されたって
Do-
思ってくれるんですか？
Do you think that Koi-kun was murdered?
ええ、それ以外考えられない。
That's right. Can't imagine it's anything else.
彼は誰かに殺されたんだと思う。
I think someone killed him. After hearing that, Nagisa began spilling huge tears once again. However, they had a slightly different tone than the angry, sorrowful tears from a moment ago.
誰も信じてくれなかったんです。
Nobody would believe me.
浩平君が自分から死ぬわけない。
Koi-kun wouldn't take his own life.
まして事故なんて。
And an accident is even less likely.
なのにみんな密室だったから事故だ自殺だって勝手に決めつけて。
Nevertheless, everyone arbitrarily decided it was an accident or suicide just because it was a closed room.
犯人を探してくださいって頼んでも誰も。
Even though I begged them to look for the killer, nobody would.
大丈夫よ。
It's alright.
少なくとも私はこれは事件だって思っているから。
Because at the very least, I agree with you.
本当に？
Seriously?
ええ。
That's right.
今聞いた限りだと沢村くん亡くなる前の週に今週の診断次第で退院できるかもって話していたのよね。
You said just now, a week before his death, Sawamura-kun said he might be able to leave in a week, depending on his diagnosis, right? Nagisa deeply nodded. What Nagisa had said right there completely stripped away the uneasy sensation Tomoe was feeling.
あなたの言う通り部屋のカレンダーを見たら次の月に退院予定日が書いてあった。
It's just as you said. When I checked the calendar in his room, his scheduled discharge date was written on the next month.
多分あなたが来る時にその話をするつもりだったんだと思う。
I think he was planning to tell you about it when you got here.
なのにそれを告げずに、ましてあなたの来る日に自殺なんてありえない。
And yet, he'd commit suicide on the day of the arrival without telling you? Possible.
どう考えても不自然だわ。
No matter how you think about it, it's unnatural.
じゃあ
Then...
事故って可能性ももちろんない。
And of course, there's no chance it was an accident.
そもそも窓から転落するような行動をする理由がないし、最後に会った看護師も検温時に異常を認めていない。
There's no reason for him to get close enough to the window to fall in the first place. And the last nurse that spoke with him said that nothing was unusual when his temperature was taken.
間違いなくこれは殺人事件よ。
This is a murder. No doubt about it. Then, Tomoe stood up straight and glanced at her watch. She still had a little more time before the express train arrived.
尾崎さん、
Ozaki-san?
あなたには辛いことかもしれないけど、真実を突き止めるために協力してほしいの。
This may be painful for you, but I'd like your cooperation in order to find the truth.
この後、時間少しだけいい？
Do you have a little time after this?
約束する。
I promise you.
必ず犯人を捕まえてみせるから。
No matter what, I'll catch the killer.
ね。
Alright?
はい。
Okay. Okay. We're gonna catch that killer. I think I'm gonna go get some more water really quick. Let me make sure it's gonna be... Alright, I'll be right back. Give me like 10 seconds. Okay. Monday, October 11th, 1982. Public holiday. Bam. Finally here. Tomoe stepped out of the car and stretched her back. After going round and around town, searching for a place to park, she finally found a narrow temporary parking lot in one corner of the downtown area next to the station, so she parked her car there. Since this was a fairly rural town, she could see cars both large and small parked along the small street. Apparently, parking enforcement in this area was quite lax, but as a detective, she could intentionally break traffic regulations. Car next to mine is a slightly intimidating foreign car, though. As she walked away from the parking spot, she noticed cabaret clubs and bars lined along the road. In all likelihood, the thugs who came in that car were headed there. A detective's car parked right next to a gangster's car. How bizarre. Anyway, that was a long drive from Kakuichi. Maybe I should have taken the train after all. Her mind was fogged over after driving down the slender, meandering mountain roads. She couldn't relax for even a moment. In one particularly awful moment, she relaxed off the accelerator thinking she was approaching a slope, but then a hairpin turn suddenly emerged. A chill ran down her spine when she remembered just how just a short time ago, she almost broke through the guardrail and plummeted to the bottom of the valley. Are the other visitors able to handle those roads? She suddenly recalled what she heard from the regional affairs staff the other day. The number of people relocating to Kakuichi City from other prefectures had skyrocketed in recent years. Among them, an especially significant number were moving there from Okinomiya and its neighboring village, Hinamizawa. After paying the manager of the parking lot, she began looking over the cityscape once again. The area in front of the station had developed more than she had expected. It looked far more crowded than her grandmother's version of Ibaraki. A housewife on the way home after shopping rang the bell on her bike, then swerved past Tomoe. A group of children dressed in baseball uniforms came around the corner up ahead making a fuss and passed beside her. We did great today. The other pitcher on the other team must be so sore. You even caught that last fly ball when we were really in a pinch. Nice job. Let's go just as hard next week. The kids were happily heading home from a game, all with smiles on their muddy, sweaty faces. Tomoe got lost in their mood as she watched their little backs walk off before eventually turning around. But just then... Dum dum dum. Tomoe suddenly came to a halt when she heard a loud noise coming from the direction she had just walked away from. Feeling a bit concerned, she retraced her steps to check it out. There was a vacant lot just behind a small alley, and 3 motorcycles right next to it, each lying on the ground after being knocked over in a domino reaction. What'd you do?
だが俺
Knocking him over.
うら撃ってんじゃねえぞ
Ah, no way.
お
What?
なってってだろあんじゃ吸ってねえぞ
What you gonna do about it?
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry. And right next to where the motorcycles fell, there were 3 young male delinquents threateningly surrounding one other person. It was hard to see around the backs of the boys, but the fragile, trembling voice sounded like it was coming from a girl.
ちょっとよそ見してて肘が当たっちゃって。
I was just looking the other way and lightly tapped it with my elbow.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
ちょっと肘当たったじゃねえんだよ
Lightly tapped it with your elbow?
俺たちの命より大事なバイク派手に倒しておいて謝っただけで済むと思ってんのか
Them bikes are worth more than our lives. You think you can just apologize?
その
Well... Girl's voice was getting smaller and smaller. Tomoe could hear sobbing mixed in. As soon as she heard that, Tomoe let out a sigh and stepped into the alley. She could see the girl's face in the gap between the boys. The girl with her hair tied in buns on both sides had a terrified, tear-filled look in her eyes.
うらどうとしまえつけるってんだ
Hoorah! How could you knock him over? Huh?
口で謝る前に誠意ってものを見せやがれってんだ
Instead of apologizing with your mouth, show us something to prove your sincerity.
そんな
No.
私その
聞こえねえってんだよ
Huh? I can't hear ya. I can't hear ha.
金ないんなら態度で示しやがれってんだよ俺たちにこれから付き合ってなあ
If you got no money, show compassion. Go out on a date with us, yeah.
おいおい何年前の不良だよ。
Come on, how old are these delinquents? Seeing the situation unfold with no context, Tomoe was more exasperated than enraged. She shook her head. At least back in Tokyo, these stereotypical delinquents had gone completely extinct. Moreover, 3 of them were ganging up on a single girl. It was well beyond cowardly, truly deplorable. The thugs that Tomoe knew were better than that. They had an unwritten rule not to be violent toward women.
許してください。
Please forgive me.
お願いします。
I'm begging you.
ちょっと遊びに行くだけだっつーよ
Let's go play for a little while.
付き合いやあ
On a date. Yeah.
いいところ知ってんだよ時間あるんだろえ
I know a good spot. You got time, right?
助け
Someone help.
おいそんなビビんなっての
Hey, why so scared?
こんなに言ってやってんだから危険だろ
I'm talking to ya. You're listening.
ああ、ダメダメ。
Ah, it's no good.
そんな誘い方だとどんな女の子でも振り向いてくれないわよ。
With an invitation like that, how can you expect a girl to do anything but turn around immediately? Huh? The boys turned back toward Tomoe all at once. They looked so pissed off they were ready to chop someone to bits. But they regained their composure as soon as they realized their enemy was a lady. Their expressions warped her into nasty smiles. The girl who was surrounded had a relieved, I'm saved expression on her face as she anxiously watched on.
ま、そりゃそうか。
Well, that's expected. They think some reckless woman passing by stepped in to help the girl. They probably think she's some sucker armed with a leak.
なんじゃお姉ちゃ
What's that, lady?
んあんたも一緒に遊びに行きたいってか
You wanna come play with us too?
遊びに行って誰と？
Play with who?
どこに？
And where?
決まってんだろ
Ain't it obvious?
俺たちと一緒にいいことしに行こうぜ
Wanna come with us for something good?
暇してんだろ 夜まで楽しませてやるぜ。
Got some free time. Keep you entertained all night.
どうだ姉ちゃんよ。
How about it, lady?
悪いようにはしないからよ。
We won't do anything bad.
どうだろう、このツッコミどころ満載の誘い文句は。
What's a suitable retort for this fully loaded invitation? She thought for about 2 seconds for something emotionally scathing, was planning to say something about their disadvantage, but that seemed less relevant than expected. And so, Tomoe stared at them with a fake smile and a disgusted look on her face. Then,
バーカ。
idiots.
私を誘うなんざ48億年早いっての。
That invitation is 4.8 billion years too early.
地球創生からやり直してきなさい。
Go back to the creation of the earth and start over. Good one, Tomoe.
なとら。
That's so!
調子こいてんじゃねえぞこのガキ。
I don't like the tone of this brat.
男みたいな顔しやがって。
And her face looks like a man's.
ほう。
Oh no, they're transvestigating Tomoe. How terrible. Ho. Pop! Tomoe was trying to keep things peaceful, but that one sentence drove her over the edge all the way to send them to hell. I hope she kicks their ass so hard.
なんだてめえ、やんのか？
What's with you, huh? Oh!
あのさ、
You know,
言い忘れてたんだけど、私には NG ワードがあってね。
I forgot to mention, there are a few choice words you shouldn't say around me. The
一つはガキ。
first is brat.
年下に見られるのはいいんだけど、ガキだって言われると最高に頭にくるのよね。
Saying I look young is fine, but saying brat drives me absolutely mad. Gosh, she's so cool.
これでも結構童顔だってのを気にしてるのにさ。
Maybe I don't act like it, but I'm really conscious of my childish face.
てめえ。
You!
もう一つは男。
Next word is man.
これはさっきのやつよりも強烈にもう問答無用って感じに許せない。
This is even more infuriating than the previous one, so won't forgive you no matter what you say or do.
どこをどう見たら男だ？
What about me looks like a man?
胸か？
My chest?
身長か？
My height?
やかましい、どっちも大きなお世話だ。
How obnoxious. Either way, it's none of your business.
だから私の人生でそれを口にしたやつはみんな
That's why I give everyone who talks about my life that way.
裁縫10万億度に片道切符で送ってやるって決まりなんだよ。
A one-way ticket straight to the afterlife. Yeah.
普通に脅してりゃもう少し穏やかに諭してやったのにね。
Normally, when trying to intimidate someone, you have to be more calm.
じゃあ最後の質問。
Now, one last question.
君たち生命保険入ってるかな？
Do you guys have life insurance?
オラオラオラオラオラオラオラオラオラ
Excellent. Dead. Hopefully. She just murders them. Tomoe decided that was enough punishment for these delinquents, so she let them make their escape and watched them go with a huge smile on her face. She was carrying an extendable baton in her jacket pocket just in case of emergency, but it apparently wasn't even necessary. For the time being, Tomoe turned back toward the girl who had been absentmindedly watching that punishment for several minutes now. She smiled at the girl and tried talking to her.
大丈夫？
Are you alright?
はい。
Yeah.
平気です。
I'm fine. She didn't appear hurt, so apparently they were only threatening her with harsh language. Tomoe heaved a sigh of relief after verifying that.
手に血が。
There's blood on your hand.
はあ、大丈夫よ。
Hmm? It's alright.
俺、返り血だから。
It's not my blood. Tomoe smiled at the girl while wiping it away with a wet tissue. It was a bit painful, but she'd held back so it wasn't broken, she thought. Probably.
強いんですね。
Wow, you're tough.
まあね。
Well,
これでも剣道3段。
I did make it to stage 3 in Kendo.
そうなんですか？
Really?
突っ込んでよ、関係ないって。
You have to step in, even if you're unrelated.
市内持ってくればよかったな。
It's too bad I didn't bring my bamboo sword. Was there something weird about that answer? The girl burst out into tearful laughter. Her laugh was positively adorable, so Tomoe couldn't help but laugh along with her.
ほら見ろ。笑ってくれる人もいるじゃない。
See? There are people who smile and laugh with me. Tomoe pictured the face of another person with no sense of humor and cursed them in her mind.
助けてくれて本当にありがとうございました。
Thank you so much for helping me.
私、
I,
別にいいって。
it's no big deal.
でも、こんな人通りの少ない路地を女の子一人で歩くのは危ないわ。
But it's dangerous for a lone girl to be walking down an alley like this.
次からは気をつけた方がいいわよ。
You should be more careful in the future.
はい。
Oh, right.
ちょっと近道をしようと思っただけなんですけど。
I was just trying to take a little shortcut. The girl hung her head and sounded terribly apologetic as she said that. Thinking that she was speaking a little bit too much like a guardian, Tomoe cleared her throat and then continued in a jovial tone.
それにしても、最初声がした時はどこの動物園のゴリラが脱走してきたのかなって思っちゃったわよ。
Anyway, when I first heard their voices, I started to wonder if a gorilla had escaped from the zoo.
都会だったらもはや天然記念物に近いわね。
People like that are endangered species in the city.
この町のやつらなの？
Are those guys from this town?
多分違うと思います。
I think they're probably from somewhere else.
私、この町であんな人たち今まで見たことないから。
I've never seen people like them in town before. That moment. As soon as she heard the word city, the girl's expression stiffened.
じゃあ、あなたは地元の子？
So, are you a local?
いえ、
Oh, no.
今年の春に引っ越しして、今日は里帰りなんです。
I moved away from here back in the spring, and I'm visiting today.
そっか、連休だもんね。
I see. It's a holiday weekend, isn't it?
本当は私も里帰りのはずだったんだけど。
Actually, I'm supposed to be visiting my old home too. Thanks to this, she had to disappoint her grandmother. Although, her old-fashioned grandmother would encourage her to be doing something she enjoys rather than relaxing at home. Suddenly, Tomoe looked down at the collapsed motorcycles, crouched down, and took note of their license plates. They were from another prefecture, just as the girl had suggested. Not only that, but the cover under the keyhole was broken, probably stolen. When she saw that, she pulled the notebooks out from her breast pocket and quickly wrote down the license plate numbers.
何？
What is it?
ひょっとして警察の方ですか？
Are you a police officer?
ええ、そうよ。
Yes, that's right.
と言っても、今は休暇中なんだけどね。
Although, I'm on vacation today. As soon as she found out Tomoe was with the police, the girl's face suddenly turned nervous. It was a typical reaction, but it was a bit disheartening considering she had just helped the girl.
家って近いの？
Are you close to home?
もし怖かったら途中まで一緒に付き合うけど。
If you're scared, I can walk away, or walk... If you're scared, I can walk with you partway there.
いえ、大丈夫です。
No, I'm alright.
本当にすみませんでした。
I'm really sorry.
あ、ちょっと。
Wait. The girl began walking away with her head down, but Tomoe suddenly called out to her. Then, she thought about asking the girl just for her name, but stopped herself. Nobody really enjoys giving their name to the police. So, instead...
私、ミナイって言います。
My name is Minai.
南北の南に井戸の井。
It's written with the kanji for south and well.
もし何か困ったことがあったら遠慮なく相談してね。
If you run into any trouble, don't hesitate to contact me.
できる限り力になるから。
I'll do everything in my power to help. Her face was backlit, so Tomoe couldn't make out her expression very well, but the girl bowed her head once more and then quickly left the area. Even after she went out to view, Tomoe stopped and stood there for a while. The meeting spot was a fairly secluded coffee shop.
ここね。
This is it, huh? When she opened the door, she heard the characteristic ringing of the bell in the coffee shop. She felt the strong scent of cigarette smoke the moment she entered. Couldn't help but grimace.
Oh, Tomoe-chan, こっちですよ.
Oh, Tomoe-chan, over here! A hand like a log was conspicuously waving at her from a table short distance away. Though acting aloof, his facial expression had a crafty sharpness to it. It was Detective Oishi from Okinomiya Station.
ご無沙汰してます、大石さん。
It's been a long time, Oishi-san.
わざわざすみません。
Thank you for making time for this.
いやいや、お久しぶりですね、Tomoe-chan.
Oh, it's no big deal. Long time no see, Tomoe-chan.
しばらく会わないうちに胸ちょっと大きくなったんじゃありませんか?
It's been so long. Has your chest gotten a little bigger since we last met? Oishi, you can't say that. Come on, man. You can't say that.
会ったのはほんの数ヶ月前でしょ。
It's only been a few months since we last met, you know?
風船じゃあるまいし、そんなに短期間で変わったりしませんっての。
They're not like balloons. They don't change that quickly.
しかし今は便利な技術がありますからね。
But there are convenient solutions for that nowadays.
寄せてあげるなんとか、あるいは美容整形とか。
Push-up bras. Cosmetic surgery.
そんなもんに金使うほど裕福じゃありません。
I'm not rich enough to throw money at something like that.
つうか、あんまり言うとセクハラで訴えますよ。
If you say another word, I'm going to file a sexual harassment claim. Got it? No! Oishi's large belly shook as he let out a booming laugh. It seemed like he started talking like that more and more as Tomoe got older. At this point, the ratio of respect and disdain for him were close to reaching the tipping point. It was reprehensible.
まずは何か注文しちゃってください。
Well, first things first. Let's order something.
ここはパフェがなかなかいけましてね。
The parfait here is really good.
なあ、私はこれのおかわりで。
Ah, I'll have a second helping of this.
甘いものは今日はちょっと。
Actually, today's sweets are a bit...
あ、ホットで。
Oh, I'll have it hot. For now, Tomoe submitted an order, then turned to have a look around. There were no customers in the shop. It was quiet enough that she could hear the baseball game on the TV in the counter area, some distance away from their seat.
どうぞ。
Here you go.
どうも。
Ah, thanks. The host brought over the coffee she ordered, then turned and headed back to the counter area. After confirming that, Tomoe leaned forward and spoke to Oishi in a hushed voice.
で、お電話で話した件ですが、
So, about what we discussed on the phone.
大石さんにちょっとご協力をお願いしたいんです。
I'd like to ask for a little help, Oishi-san. No.
私にできることでしたら何でも言ってくださいな。
If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know.
前途有望な警部さんに貸しを作っておくのは魅力的なお話ですからね。
Lending a hand to an up-and-coming police officer in a time of need is an attractive proposition.
ただ、私の協力料は少し高いですよ。
However, my cooperation fee is a bit steep, you know?
鹿島桜3本、
3 bottles of Kashima Sakura,
純米酒の特急で、当時の1号蔵のやつを送りますよ。
high grade, pure rice wine, a gift from the chief brewer at the first storehouse.
おお、
Oh!
さすがともえちゃん、よくわかっていますね。
Wonderful, Tomoe-chan, you know me so well. She was actually planning to give it to him anyway, so it was no additional expense. Although, Oishi probably understood that as well.
じゃあ伺いましょう。
Alright, ask away.
その事件の話、聞かせてもらえますか。
What did you want to discuss about this case?
はい。まずこれを。
Very well. First, take a look at this. Tomoe pulled out the files she had secretly borrowed from the Ibaraki Prefectural Police Department and laid them out on the table, explaining them to Oishi one by one. Oishi burned through 5 cigarettes while silently reading through everything and listening to her story, then finally spoke up.
それで、
So?
その男の子の彼女さんは何と言っていました？
What did the boy's girlfriend have to say?
もし自殺でないのなら、殺したのは竜宮玲奈じゃないかと。
She said if it wasn't suicide, then the killer must be Rina Ryugu.
彼女が呪い殺したか、それとも直接やってきて殺したか。
Did she curse him to death, or did she kill him more directly?
まあ両方とも可能性はゼロに近いですけどね。
Although, both cases the probability is close to zero. If it wasn't the latter, there was no way she could have avoided being seen at the hospital. More importantly, Rina Ryugu didn't seem to have a reason to kill him in the first place. And the former was utter nonsense. If it was possible to kill someone with a curse, there would be no way to catch evildoers. With that in mind, Tomoe wasn't just skeptical of supernatural phenomenon, but outright denied it.
お社様のたたりね。
The curse of Oyashiro-sama, huh?
以前お伺いした時から少々気になっていたんですが、確かに本人が知りもしないのにそのことを口にして挙句の果てに飛び降りた。
She asked him about that on an earlier visit, but even the victim himself claimed to have no knowledge of that before ultimately jumping to his death.
ただの自殺や事故にしては妙な感じですね。
But it feels too odd to write it off as a mere accident or suicide.
県警の捜査一課長は殺人の線で見ているそうで、私も同意見です。
The first section chief at the prefectural police department shares the same opinion that it's likely murder.
本来なら一見捜査に当たるのですが、面識のあった子なので、せめて分かる範囲だけでも知っておきたいと思いまして。
This is essentially an unauthorized investigation, but I'm acquainted with this girl, so at the very least I'd like to understand as much as you know.
いやいや、その考え方は立派です。
Oh my, that's a fine line of reasoning.
ああ、皮肉とは取らないでくださいよ。
Please don't think I'm saying that ironically.
これは私が本気で思っていることなんですから。
Because I do seriously believe that.
あ、いえ、そんなことは。
Oh, no, not at all. Tomoe scratched her head as she said that. For some reason, these days she had trouble accepting praise from other people. Her tendency to doubt people was a bad trend.
それにこの被害者は私の依頼でともえちゃんが調べに入ってくれた子です。
Besides, it's my request that got you involved with this kid in the first place, Tomoe-chan.
ということは私も無関係というわけではない。
So you can't say I'm unrelated to this case.
喜んで協力させていただきますよ。
I'll be glad to help you out.
助かります。
Thank you very much.
縄張り違いの私がこの町で大手を振って捜査活動を行うわけにはいきませんので。
Since I'm not from this area, there are limits on what I can do while investigating in this town.
そんなことはお気になさらなくても。
No, that shouldn't be a problem.
そのための広域捜査官の肩書きなんでしょう？
Isn't that the point of your wide area investigator title?
いえ、それはそうなんですが。
Well, it's true, but even so. When Oishi pointed that out, Tomoe responded with a vague, forced smile. Even with her wide area investigator title, cases like this that crossed between the Kanto and Chubu region still caused problems. So, Tomoe's intention was to hand things off to Ibaraki Prefectural Police after finding some clues.
ただ、だからといって途中で放り投げたり、安易に人に丸投げしたりするのは後味が悪いですから。
But just throwing it away half complete leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
結局、自己満足だとよくわかっていますので、解決さえすればそれで十分です。
I do understand that this is for my own self-satisfaction, though. So long as the case is solved, I'll be satisfied.
相変わらず欲がないですね。
Selfless as ever, eh?
実績を着実に積み上げていくのもキャリアさんの出世に大きく関わってくるんですよ。
Are employees on the career path supposed to seek a steady flow of achievements in the name of career advancement?
準キャリアですよ、私は。
I'm on the quasi-career path.
それに、この件では私の関与が知られると、実績よりも始末書の数が増えるだけだと思います。
Besides, if my involvement on this case became widely known, the only thing that would increase is the number of written apologies I'd have to write.
他の方にもご迷惑をおかけするかもしれませんし。
It may cause trouble for other people too.
そんな性格ですね。
Such a generous personality. Oishi smiled as he said that. Behind those words was a concerned old man, thinking, then you could just ignore all that, or all this in that case. Indeed, if she kept quiet and let it slide on account of it being outside her jurisdiction, that would be the end of the story. It wasn't Tomoe's fault that Kohei Sawamura died, nor was she particularly close to his girlfriend Nagisa. Besides, the relevant precinct gave an evasive answer saying it was a falling accident, but Hanjo was going to escalate it to Prefectural Police Headquarters to take the investigation more seriously. Even without Tomoe's involvement, the situation was slowly turning around.
でも、だからといって全部他人任せにはできない。
But can't just leave it all to everyone else.
私
I
が
can't
約
just
束
leave it
し
all
た
to
んだ
everyone
から。
else. Because I made a promise. That, though, was probably the main reason Tomoe insisted on being so selfless. But Oishi could never resent her for that. In fact, deep down he respected it and thought she was dependable.
それにしても、お社様ですか？
Anyway, what's the deal with Oyashiro-sama?
以前、大石さんに頼まれて調べた時は、特に気にしていなかったのですが、何なんですか、それって。
You didn't seem very concerned when I asked you about that during the previous investigation, Oishi-san. But what does it mean?
ああ、巴ちゃんにはちゃんと説明したことがありませんでしたね。
Ah, I haven't given you a proper explanation about that, Tomoe-chan.
お社様ってのは、隣の平見沢村に古くから伝わる守り神。いわ
Oishiro-sama.
ゆる魔がつかみのことですよ。
Oishiro-sama is a guardian deity from the traditions passed down in Hinamazawa village. A calamitous deity.
魔がつかみ。
Calamitous deity?
それって、人々に最悪をもたらすことで信仰心を煽る存在のことですよね。
As in, an entity fated to bring disaster to the people?
ねえ、その通りです。
Yes, precisely.
そしてお社様は、平見沢が鬼ヶ淵と呼ばれた大昔の時代から、村の人々を畏敬と恐怖でもって支配していった。
And Oyashiro-sama has ruled over the villagers of Hinamazawa with awe and fear since ancient times when the village went by the name Onikafuchi. Then, Oishi lit a cigarette and began telling an old tale in a hushed tone.
平見沢では昔、鬼たちが人間たちと共に暮らしていたと言われています。
This has got to be like the 17th time we've been told the origins of the story in our whole reading of Higurashi. Here we go, for the 17th time. They say that long ago, humans and demons lived together in Hinamazawa.
そして彼らはたびたび下界に降りて、人間をさらってはその血肉を食らっていた。
When those demons descended upon the lower realm, they would occasionally kidnap and feed on humans.
その鬼と人間との仲を取り持ち、共存できるように仕向けたのが、いわゆるお社様でした。
This Oyashiro-sama acted as a mediator between the humans and demons, allowing them to coexist.
だったらいい神様じゃないですか。
That sounds like a benevolent god.
それがどうして魔がつかみだと？
So why do you call it a calamitous god?
鬼たちは人間たちと共存しても、従来の習慣である人食いをやめることができなかったんですよ。
Even though the demons cohabited with the humans, they couldn't cease their traditional custom of feeding on humans.
ですから、お社様はその行動を制限付きで許すようになった。
So, Oyashiro-sama agreed to forgive this behavior under a certain condition.
いわゆる生贄ですね。
What you might call sacrifice.
人間たちにとってはたまったもんじゃありませんが、まあ無差別に食い殺されるよりはマシということで、それを受け入れてきました。
The humans had their misgivings, but they accepted it because it was better than being killed indiscriminately. That was the origin of the curse. In other words, Oyashiro-sama selected those of little faith and made them sacrifices to the curse by making them targets for the demon hunt. And in response, the demons graciously devoured the pathetic humans selected for the sacrifice. In other words, those who turn a blind eye to Oyashiro-sama have their lives taken at the hands of the demons.
なんだかお社様ってまるでマフィアの元締めですね。
This Oyashiro-sama sounds like a mafia boss.
殺されるも殺されないも、その神様の紫三寸ってわけですか。
Being killed or spared at the whim of some god?
確かに。
Indeed.
そんなわけですから、お社様に目をつけられてはたたりで命が危ないってことで、 人間たちは信心を欠かさず、その神様を祭り、敬い続けた。
But because of that, people are afraid that turning away from Oishiro-sama would put their lives in danger, so they continue to be faithful and respectful.
それがひなみ沢に残る古くからのお社様信仰の根源なんですよ。
And that is the root of this ancient faith in Oishiro-sama, which still continues in Hinamizawa even today.
でもだったらなぜ人間たちはそこまで鬼の脅威にさらされてまでひなみ沢で暮らし続けたのでしょう。
But if that's the case, why did the humans continue to live in Hinamizawa even after the threat of the demons continued?
命の危険から逃れるのだったら別の土地に移住すればいいのに。
Wouldn't it be better to migrate to another land in order to escape the danger?
まあ詳しいことは分かりませんが、それだけひなみ沢の土地が住みやすかったのではないかと思います。
Well, I don't know all the details, but I think that the land in Hinamizawa was easy to live comfortably in.
ほらよく言うでしょ。火星は虎よりも猛なりと。
You know what they say, tyranny is more deadly than a tiger. Indeed, there was an old proverb that said even if it was dangerous to live near ferocious beasts, it was still preferable to heavy taxes and terrible work conditions. She didn't know exactly what kind of forces were at work in the surrounding municipalities, but Onigifuchi village may very well have been a region free of conflict and tyranny.
それに加えて鬼たちは人間たちにはない知識があったそうで、彼らには決して作れない薬とか食べ物とかを提供していたという話もあります。
In addition to that, there are stories saying that demons possessed knowledge that the humans lacked, and offered to share food and drugs that humans couldn't make.
ですから共存には確かにメリットもあったんですよ。
So, there was undoubtedly merit to their coexistence.
なるほど。
I see.
しかし鬼たちも人間を狩るだけの力があるのによく人間の神様に従う気になりましたね。
But even though the demons were given the power to hunt humans, they chose to obey human god.
普通に考えれば無視して好き勝手に暴れ回ってもおかしくなさそうですが。
Normally, you'd think they would ignore it and go around rampaging as they please.
いやいや、実はそのお社様自身が鬼だったんですよ。
Oh, no. In reality, Oishiro-sama was a demon as well.
そして人間たちと積極的に関わっていくことで、彼らの信頼と畏怖を集め、人間と鬼の仲介役を果たしていた。
By actively engaging with the humans, Oishiro-sama was able to garner the trust and fear necessary to act as an intermediary between humans and demons.
実際、その後鬼たちは人間たちと交わっていき、その血と本能を薄めつつ、共存の道を歩んで現在に至るわけです。
In fact, the humans and demons commingled so closely that their blood mixed after that.
ですから、ひなみ沢の住人は鬼の血を引いているとの言い伝えが今もなお根強く残っています。
And so, even today, legends persist that the denizens of Hinamizawa possess the blood of demons. And it is said that the blood ran strongest in Hinamizawa's ancient ruling parties, the three families, the Kimiyoshi, Sonozaki, and Furude families. They had a powerful voice in the politics and rituals throughout the village, and they were able to lead the villagers to fight against the state in the campaign against the dam construction project.
つまり鬼とは本当の意味の化け物ではなく狩猟で生活を営んでいた山岳民族のようなもの。
In other words, the demons weren't actually monsters, but some sort of mountain-dwelling race of hunters.
食人はともかく呪術的な習慣を持ち合わせていた彼らが山を降りて農耕民族の暮らす社会へと侵入し、征服か和平の道を見つけて共存した。
Setting aside the cannibalism, these people with supernatural customs descended from the mountains and invaded the nearby agricultural community, but eventually found a way to coexist via conquest or peace.
お社様はさしずめ強力なカリスマを持った共通の指導者。そんなところですかね。
Ultimately, Oishiro-sama was a charismatic leader who found common ground between the two sides, or something along those lines.
ともえちゃんはリアリストだな。
No! Tomoe-chan, you're such a realist.
そういう文化人類学的な解釈じゃなく、言葉通り鬼と神様の話でいいじゃないですか。
We can't even have a conversation about gods and demons without you adding a cultural anthropological interpretation?
あ、すみません。
Oh, sorry.
でも私ってたたりとか頂上の類をあまり信じられない性分ですから。
But I simply can't believe in curses or other supernatural phenomena.
お社様のたたりで人が死ぬって話も今一つピンときません。
So saying that the curse of Oishiro-sama is killing people just doesn't sit right with me. Tomoe thought the idea of using a curse to subjugate people was utter nonsense in the first place. If spells and magic could control the fate of men, even life and death, then there was no point in the very existence of the police, or law itself. Even as she thought that, she believed it to be an inelegant way of thinking. However...
Oishi-san?
Oishi-san. Tomoe couldn't help but tilt her head and stare when she noticed Oishi's oddly mysterious expression. He thought silently for a while, carefully choosing his words, before finally addressing Tomoe.
Tomoe-chan.
Tomoe-chan.
たたりで人が死ぬって話、ここじゃちっともバカバカしくなんかないんですよ。
In this case, talk of a curse killing people isn't so ridiculous.
数ヶ月前にも人が確かに死んでいます。
People really have died, even as recently as a few months ago.
え？
Huh? People dying from a curse. It's not just some old tale, but something still happening today. Although, honestly, Tomoe was even more dubious than surprised. However, Oishi wasn't one to tell ghost stories or joke around intending to scare someone, and he began talking in a matter of fact tone.
先ほどお話しした鬼の人食いの習慣なんですが、当時の村で年に一度綿流しという儀式が行われて、そこで鬼への生贄が捧げられていました。
About the tradition I mentioned earlier, where the demons feasted on humans. In those days, the village held a yearly ceremony called Watanagashi, where a sacrifice was offered to the demons.
それは生贄に選ばれた人間が腹を裂かれて、つまり腹綿ですね。それを川に流してたたりを沈めるという内容だったと言います。
The humans selected for the sacrifice would have their stomachs split open, and their entrails would be sent drifting down the river to quell the curse.
そしてその儀式は今もなおひなみ沢において続けられている。
And that ceremony is still conducted in Hinamizawa, even today.
まさかと思いますが、それが本当に行われているわけじゃないんですよね。
I find that hard to believe. Are you saying they're actually doing that?
まあさすがに腹綿は流しませんよ。
Well, of course, they're not actually sending entrails drifting down the river.
今では布団とか着物とか普段使っている綿製品の中の綿を流すことでお世話になっている日用品に感謝するという意味合いに変化しています。
Nowadays, they take some everyday product like a futon or a kimono and slice out the cotton, then send that drifting downstream as a way of expressing their gratitude for their daily necessities.
よかった。
Thank goodness. Tomoe was relieved to hear that. Even if it was a small, remote town deep in the mountains, she couldn't accept that such an inhumane act was being conducted out in the open.
しかしですね、その代わりと言っちゃなんなんですが、
However, in lieu of that,
ひなみ沢ではここ数年、その綿流しのお祭りの晩に奇妙な事件が起こっているんですよ。
there have been mysterious incidents happening on the night of the Watanagashi festival in recent years.
奇妙な事件？
Mysterious incidents?
殺人ですよ。あと行方不明者も出ています。
Murders and missing people too.
これは冗談でも何でもなく本当のことなんですよ。
This is no joke. It's all true. 3 years ago, the dam construction manager's dismembered body was discovered. One of the people involved in the murder ran away and was still missing. 2 years ago, a man who went against the village's wishes and accepted aid money from the state for supporting the dam construction project died in a falling accident. His wife allegedly fell off the cliff together with him, but her whereabouts are still unknown. Last year, the shrine priest and head of the Furude family, one of the 3 families ruling the area, who had taken a neutral stance in the campaign against the dam project, suddenly died of an unknown illness. and his wife seemingly committed suicide by jumping into a nearby swamp. A will was found, but her body was never discovered. And then,
今年もやはり一人が死んで一人がいなくなりました。
and this year as well, one person died, and another went missing.
え
That happened on a Sunday in June. A housewife was murdered late at night in the outskirts of the village, shortly after the village Watnagashi festival was held. She was the sister-in-law of the dam supporter who died 2 years ago.
そういや、ともいちゃんに竜宮レイナの件を依頼した時にはお話ししていませんでしたね。
By the way, didn't tell you this when you were commissioned for the Reina Ryugu case.
顔を鈍器か何かでそれはもうひどく潰されていまして。
Her face was crushed using some sort of blunt weapon.
犯人は相当怨恨とか憎悪を被害者に持っていたようですね。
Apparently the killer felt that level of contempt for the victim.
もともとこの渡流しには奇妙な言い伝えがありまして。
Originally, there was a peculiar legend about this Watnagashi.
この祭りが行われた晩に一人が殺され、そして一人が行方不明になる。
On the night of the festival, one person is killed and one goes missing.
なんてことが起こると言われています。
That's what they say.
そして今年もそれが繰り返された。
And it's repeating, even this year.
行方不明者が出たのですか
So, a person went missing too?
ねえ、殺された主婦の息子さん。
That's right, it was the son of the murdered housewife.
ああ、いや、正確には甥なんですがね。
No, sorry, he's actually your nephew.
事件発生から数日後、突然行方不明に。
He suddenly went missing a few days after the incident.
その子は事件に何か関与していたのですか
Was this boy involved in the incident?
関与とは？
Involved?
例えば被害者に対する感情とか事件当日のアリバイとか
For example, how did he feel toward the victim? Did he have an alibi for the day of the incident? As soon as Oishi heard that, he let out a sigh, or he let out a light, as if impressed. In a murder case, it's typical for someone who disappears right after the incident to be considered a suspect. However, thanks to the pattern of deaths from the curses, ordinary people would regard the missing person as another victim. So, being able to identify him as a potential culprit based on that basic information was a testament to her excellent organizational skills.
いや、さすが勘がいいですね。
Oh, that's some impressive intuition.
ええ、実はその主婦殺しの重要参考人としてマークしていました。
Indeed, we did consider him a key suspect in the housewife's murder.
もともと彼のアリバイにはいろいろと不審な点がありましてね。
First off, there were several suspicious points about his alibi.
しかも家庭内の不和、その直前の不審な言動、犯行に踏み切るだけの要素が揃いすぎていた。
Top of that, there was some discord within the family, and he was exhibiting suspicious behavior just before the incident.
ですから泳がせつつもその動向を伺っていたのですが。
So even though we let him walk free, we still followed that lead.
捜査の手が及ぶ前に逃げたと
But he ran away before investigators could apprehend him.
それでその行方は
So where did he go?
新幹線の駅で似たような人物を目撃したという証言はあったんですが、結局ダメでした。
A witness testified seeing a person matching his description at a train station, but in the end it amounted to nothing.
その代わりにいきなり真犯人と名乗るやつが出てきたので、捜査もそこでストップしちゃったんですよ。
Instead, someone suddenly came out claiming to be the real culprit shortly after that, so the investigation halted right there.
誰だったんですかそれ
Who was that?
頭のおかしなやつで変な薬をやっているとのことでした。
Some weird drug addict that wasn't right in the head.
もっとも取り調べ中に自殺したそうで、詳細はよく分かっていませんが。
Although, he committed suicide during the interrogation, so the details aren't all that clear.
本当にそれは犯人だったんですか
Was he really the culprit?
わかりません。
That, I don't know.
県警ではそういうことになっています。
The prefectural police seem to think so.
ただ脈略も動機もはっきりしない上、突然降って湧いたように現れたってのがどうもうさんくさくて信用できない。
But the circumstances and motives are still unclear. Something doesn't smell right about how suddenly he appeared. It's all hard to believe.
今でもそのいなくなった甥っ子が犯人だと私は思っています。
Even now, I think the nephew that disappeared is the culprit.
確信と言ってもいいかもしれない。
That's my firm belief.
それに
Also,
それに
also,
なんとなくこれは刑事としての勘なんですがね。
this might just be my detective's intuition talking to me, but
その一個は単に家庭不安による怨恨から殺人を犯したとはちょっと思えない。
I don't think the nephew committed this murder simply because of a domestic dispute.
もともと妹思いの優しい子で衝動的に暴力に訴える性格ではなかったそうですからね。
Originally, he was a kind-hearted boy who cared about his sister, and not predisposed to violence.
ですから勝手な憶測だと言われることを覚悟で申し上げれば、その子は何者かの意思で殺人を行い、そして消された。
So, if you'll indulge a selfish fantasy of mine, I think it was someone else's intention that he murder her and then disappear.
そんな気がしてならないんです。
That's how I feel.
何者かの意思。それは
Someone else's intention? What do you mean?
つまりさっきの話ですよ。
In short, it's just like the story I told you earlier.
親代様。それが彼を突き動かしたのではないかと。
Oyashiro-sama was the one who forced him to act.
そんな
No way. Tomoe couldn't say it was impossible. In fact, as she uttered the name, she thought of the girl who resorted to violence for some unknown reason.
では竜宮玲奈もそれと同様に沢村康平を
So, that goes for Rina Ryugu too, when she attacked Kohei Sawamura?
まあ何ら確証はありませんが、ありえない話ではないと思います。
Well, there's no concrete evidence, but I don't think it's impossible.
親代様が文字通り頂上のものか、それとも村の総意によるものの代弁なのかは私にもわからない。
Well, there's no concrete evidence, but I don't think it's impossible. I still don't know if Oyashiro-sama is literally a supernatural entity or someone vocalizing the collective will of the village.
ですが、その意志は普通に生活を送っている人を死に追いやったり、あるいは殺しに駆り立てたりすることができる。
However, that will can drive normal people living otherwise peaceful lives to their deaths or to commit murder.
そんな力を持っているってことになりませんかね。
Can something with that sort of power truly exist? Drive someone to murder. So, is the previous incident between Reina Ryugu and her classmates instigated by someone else's will? If so, what on earth is the connection? Why would Reina Ryugu commit an act of violence in a town that had something to do with Hinamizawa, or nothing to do with Hinamizawa?
正直わからないことだらけで頭が痛くなります。
To be honest, my head is starting to hurt from all the things I still don't understand.
まったくですな。
Absolutely.
何にせよ、竜宮玲奈には確かに謎があると言ってもいいのかもしれません。
In any case, there certainly is something mysterious about Reina Ryugu.
調べてみて損はないかと。
We have nothing to lose by investigating.
ですね。
Indeed.
すみませんが大石さん、沢村康平死亡時の竜宮玲奈のアリバイを念のために調べていただけますでしょうか。
Sorry to impose, Oishi-san, but would you mind investigating Reina Ryugu's alibi for the time of Kohei Sawamura's death?
わかりました。
Understood.
それで、ともえちゃんは？
What are you going to do, Tomoe-chan?
一度竜宮玲奈がどんな子かこの目で見てみたいです。
This time, I'd like to see this Reina Ryugu girl with my own eyes.
本当に私が聞いたイメージ通りの子なのか。
Is she really the kind of person I've heard about? Tomoe rested her chin on her hand after saying that. Reina Ryugu, in Hinamizawa village. She wanted to uncover whatever the connection was between the two of them. Tomoe will get to the bottom of this. At the flower bed. Let's read this. In the end, I ended up going after school.
思ったより時間かかっちゃったな。
That took longer than I thought. For now, I decided to visit to the flower bed in the yard before heading to the faculty room. One section of the flower bed was maintained by the gardening club, and the multicolored autumn flowers were in full bloom.
渚?
Huh? Nagisa? Just then, I ran into a classmate from the club who was doing some weeding. She raised her head to look this way, and her eyes opened wide as soon as she saw me.
渚, 心配してたんだよ。
Nagisa, I was so worried.
もう出てきても平気なの?
Is it okay for you to be back so soon?
ごめんね。
Yeah, sorry.
今週私が当番なのに代わってもらっちゃって。
I was on duty this week, but I guess you ended up filling in for me.
そんなの全然構わないよ。
Oh, I don't mind at all.
それよりも私、あなたのことが。
Forget about me, what about you? Girl grabbed me by the arms and looked up at me with moist, cloudy eyes. A face that could burst into tears at any moment. She was seriously worried about me. She had been caring for me every day since the incident, trying to encourage me. Until a little while ago, I thought she was a thoughtless and aloof girl, so I was surprised to see so much compassion out of her. I was glad to see it. I didn't have any friends I could consider close friends since transferring here, but she was the only person I told about the incident with Koe-kun.
心配かけてごめんね。
Sorry for making you worry.
もう平気。とはまだ言えないけど、少しは元気出てきたから。
I can't say I'm feeling perfectly fine, but I'm feeling a little better.
明日からはちゃんと学校に通うね。
I think I'll start going to school properly starting tomorrow.
よかった。
Thank goodness. The girl rubbed her muddy face to fight back the sobbing as tears came trickling out. When I saw that, I couldn't help but burst into tears too.
じゃあなんとかなりそうなの?
Well, seems like you'll be able to get through this.
沢村くんのこと。
Sawamura-kun.
すごく優しい刑事さんと知り合ってね。できる限り力になってくれるって。
Yeah, I met a really nice detective who's doing everything she can to help.
さっきも電話でいろいろとお話ししていて遅くなっちゃったの。
I was talking to her on the phone earlier about all kinds of things and it got really late. That detective named Minai wasn't just getting information out of me. She was carefully choosing her words to make sure I didn't get hurt, and her attitude felt sincere. Of course, there were still parts of the investigation she couldn't tell me about. Nevertheless, she always apologized in those cases and explained why she couldn't talk about it. In the middle of the conversation, she would always say things like, "Please cheer up," and "I'll definitely keep my promise." I appreciated the encouragement.
すごく忙しい人みたいなんだけど、そんなこと感じさせないっていうか。
She seems like a really busy person, but she never made me feel that way.
颯爽としてかっこよくて、なんか憧れちゃうんだ。
She always seemed cool and gallant, and I admire her. Everyone just thinks Tomoe is just so cool.
キャリアウーマン
Like
って
me.
の？
Not like me. I also think Tomoe is cool. Is cool like that. So she was a career woman?
すごいな。女性で刑事さんなんて。
A female detective, that's impressive. That's right. The people who embrace earnest aspirations like that allow us to ask adults for help, no matter how desperate the situation is. And we do our best to become those sorts of adults. That's why I want to become an even more amazing adult. Maybe that person can. Maybe she'll believe me if I confess what Koe-kun told me on that day. No, I'm certain she'll believe me and help out. I'm still a little worried, but next time we might be bold enough to talk about it.
あ、そう
But
だ。
next time we meet, I'll be bold enough to talk about it. Oh, right.
ここのコスモス、あと少しで咲くよね。
This cosmos flower is just about to bloom, isn't it?
ちょっとだけもらってもいい？
Would it be alright if I took one?
いいけど、
どうするの？
Yeah, that's fine, but what are you going to do with it?
綺麗に咲いたら刑事さんにプレゼントしたいなって。
I'd like to give it to that detective once it properly blooms.
喜んでくれたらいいな。
I hope that'll make her happy. This Thursday, Minai-san will be doing office work in the police station. When I called earlier, that's what the detective that answered told me. The detective said she might be too busy to see me if I go in to visit her, but I'm certain Minai-san will make time for me. Come to think of it, what was that detective's name? Alright, we almost made it to 2 hours. I apologize for all the reading mistakes here tonight. Genuinely think brain more tired than usual. I know I said I probably especially for Higurashi, because it's just like me and reading a bunch of words. I probably say that as like an excuse so often that it almost sounds like I just will say it for no reason. But it's true, so I apologize. I know I'm supposed to be a better reader to make the experience as best as possible. Yeah, there we go. 2 days in a row. Some Higurashi reading. Nothing too long or anything, though. Hopefully you can read more of this on Saturday. Hopefully not. Hopefully I won't be so distracted with something else to not completely ditch it on Saturday. There should be a stream tomorrow. It'll probably be Death Stranding, since we've taken now a couple days off from that, and we still want to hit that hard. So that'll probably be tomorrow's stream for a bit. Obviously no stream Thursday, and we'll be back Friday night with something. So, again, thank you for watching, or listening, having me on in the background. Listen to my voice read some Higurashi. And until then, until tomorrow, then, have a nice night. Take it easy. Bye.